Hockey season won't be around forever, so get in on all the action now with DraftKings, the leader in one-day fantasy sports. DraftKings is giving you players a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. They aren't lying. It's millions of dollars. Claim your free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes when you use the code THPN to sign up.
And playing daily fantasy hockey is simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the sweats like never before.
I'm feeling it.
I'm feeling it later tonight. I got to play hockey, so I'm going to feel
very
the sweat
wet
too. But every goal, hit, assist, it means so much more with the DraftKings daily fantasy lineup. Baseball fans, you may have missed out on season-long fantasy, so now is the time to get in on all of the daily fantasy action, where DraftKings has even more ways to make it rain. With DraftKings, payday comes every day for players, so what are you waiting for? Head to the app now.
So download the DraftKings app now, whether you have iPhone or an Android device, whatever, you can get it. I think you probably even get it on your desktop as well. And use the code THPN during sign-up. This week, DraftKings is putting you in the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. That's code THPN, and you can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes only on DraftKings. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
I was walking through the halls of a Minnesota rink when along came a Wild fan who started talking smack to me. He said, I bet you never liked the Blues until they won a cup. And so I calmly turned to him and said, hey man, listen up. I admit it's pretty great to win Lord Stanley's prize, but listen, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in here, 52, man. Give me a Let's Go Blues. I know Oshie, Backus, Berglund, J-Bo, Perron, Petro, Steiner, Allen, Tarasenko, Gunnarsson, Bennington, Edmund, Shen, Stastny, Elliott, Fabry, Shattenkirk, O'Reilly, Schwartz, Reeves, Yarrow, Barber, Sheparenko, Dunn, Langen, Brunner, Rapportuzzo, Koliakovo. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in here, 52, man. So give me a We Went Blue.
And now, the starting lineup for your Bluenotes podcast. Tom Franklin and the man called Wags.
And Blues Fan Reacts. Hello and welcome to Bluenotes, located on the best city on Mississippi, the best in the Midwest. We've still got that Stanley Cup power, and we're too sweet to be sour. And if you're still clueless, we are talking about St. Louis. This is your home for the absolutely most bipolar Blues coverage on the Hockey Podcast Network. I am your host, Tom Franklin, tougher than steak at a strip club, and I am joined by, of course, my buddy Wags. How's it going, bud?
Oh, it's going great. I have not gotten my strip club steak in a while, so let me know how it is.
In a while, so you do admit you've been to one?
No, never
okay.
have.
There we
never
go.
have.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And then, of course, our reactionary hero, Blues Fan Reacts, Mason. How's it going, bud?
Not too shabby. Not especially after the last couple games. I haven't been too bad.
Not
Maybe
too bad.
Yesterday was a little frustrating, but
yeah,
4-0-1. I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know what? I can't complain too much about that. We got points in each game we played in the last 5. So you know what? Given the state of this team, just a few weeks ago, we'll take it. We will absolutely take it. And of course, a lot of that charge is being led by, he doesn't have the number on the sleeves here, but this is a Ryan O'Reilly St. Patty's Day jersey from last year, customized by Libby out in Chesterfield. They are the official stitcher of the St. Louis Blues. They are not paying for this. In fact, I paid them a ton of money to get this done. So, but definitely if you're looking for, to customize your jersey, check out Libby. They are excellent. Of course, shout out to Center Ice Brewery as well. Drinking my old arena lager right here. And of course, we are watching to see where the Blues end up in the standings, because you all submitted your picks as to how many points the Blues will finish at this year. And we are coming down to the wire here. So, and I think we pretty much have bracketed the low end, high end of the points for the Blues so far. So there will be a winner. I assure you, thanks to our friends from Center Ice Brewery, they will be donating a $25 gift certificate to the winner. And of course, DraftKings as well. Thank them for keeping us on the air here and talking Blues hockey with you. All right. So first things first, guys, the Blues are back. The Blues are absolutely back. When we last joined you, of course, I was out on the lake and, my Verizon decided I can only have about 40 minutes with you before cutting me off. But we were talking about how Ryan O'Reilly, I mentioned him not just because of the jersey, but because he was the spark that kind of fueled this run that the Blues are in. He was upset going down 2-0 2 Saturdays ago against Colorado. Puts the team on his back and shows this team how winning is done, how good performing is done. That is what a captain does. And guess what? The Blues have 4 wins out of 5 and an overtime loss in their last 5 against Colorado and against Minnesota. 2 teams that have already clinched playoff spots, but they clinched playoff spots because they're freaking good. So, of course, the Blues, not only did they beat Colorado in their games, they manhandled them. They weren't really very close at all. And the Blues played well against the Wild, except for the third period, of course. I kind of jumped the gun a little bit, admittedly, during the game last night. I suggested, can we play the Wild in the first round somehow? Because, we seem to do pretty well against them. And then they came back, and I feel shame. I feel a lot of shame.
It's your fault we lost. Thanks.
It is. It is. So
the good old Tom Franklin jinx strikes again.
Yes, I know. I'm drinking my sorrows away as we speak. So, so just guys, first things first, just, is the feeling back with the Blues that, hey, this is a good team that might make some noise in the playoffs? Let's go to you, Wags.
Not yet. I definitely think they are playing well above what they were doing earlier in this season. Yes, they manhandled Colorado, but we have to remember they were going up against Devan Dubnyk, who recently has not played well against the Blues. Philip Grubauer is now back after taking a stint on the COVID list. And we'll see how that plays out with Colorado. It could be good. It could be bad. We've seen guys that have come back from COVID have a good week or two and then kind of shut down essentially. So Colorado is probably looking at going a little bit afraid going into the playoffs that Devan Dubnyk may be their starter. So I'm going to take solace in the fact that they did beat a really talented Colorado team in 2 games and really thoroughly outplayed them in those 2 games. So I'm happy about that. Definitely makes me think 2019 all over again.
Yeah.
And then they did the same sort of thing to Minnesota. They dominated them for stretches at a time. They got back to their game, but then they did some stupid shit and somehow blew 2 games and gave Minnesota 3 points that they really probably didn't deserve and really could have closed the gap on that 3rd place spot. I'm not saying that they were going to overtake Minnesota for 3rd at all, but going into it, you had a shot to really close the gap and maybe put some pressure on Minnesota, and they didn't. They took the foot off the gas, and for some reason they continued to throw Zach Sanford out there in the closing minutes of the game to allow them to score goals. But I'm trending in the more positive direction. Jordan Binnington looks vintage 2019. He's been playing out of his mind right now. Ryan O'Reilly has put this team on his back. Justin Falk is playing well. Vince Dunn has been gone. Thank you very much. And Colton Parayko is back as well. And that's a big, big piece because you've got that guy in the lineup somewhat healthy, kind of back to playing his game and solidifying that back end. So I'm trending in that positive direction, but I'm not there yet. If they can clean up their iffy period, whether it's the 2nd or the 3rd period, and they continue to play consistently those 3 periods, this team could be scary. I'm not saying they can beat Vegas, but this team could make some noise if Colorado were to overtake Vegas, or for some ungodly reason, Minnesota tanks and the Blues somehow end up in 3rd, which is, I think, pretty close to statistically impossible.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the potential first round opponents here in a bit. First of all, Derek King chimes in. It's nice to see Lions 1 through 3 playing their game of hockey, which is true. They look like the way they should be instead of the disheveled mess they were for a while there. It really seems they got away from what makes them great and try to be something that they weren't. He feels he's more spooked by the Wild than any other team, which I disagree with, but we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But
they've got nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Well, let's talk about the biggest problem facing the team, at least right now, Mason. And that is the third period the new second period?
Oh God, I hope not. I
Yeah.
hope not. I mean, you can. So, if you guys remember in the last podcast when me and Wags were talking, I said I wanted 5 solid efforts. 5 solid efforts, and I'd be back on board. I'd say, okay, fine, go for the playoffs, go do it, go play well. Because I think right now, because we have those 5 solid efforts, I think we've gotten them. I think it's fair to say we've gotten 5 straight. It's not like we were, playing teams like San Jose or Los Angeles. We were playing the teams who are literally leading the division right now, and we looked competitive. So my real only take from that is this team can pull off an upset. That's why I think that we can go into the playoffs and do well, because the pieces are all there. It's just a matter of putting it all together. But I really hope that the third period isn't turning into the second, because I mean, we have a tendency, everybody knows throughout this entire season that the second periods have been just god awful. And then ever since I made the St. Louis Blues Twitter account reply to me with Barclay picks, we've been outstanding in the second period. And then the last game they ignored me, and look what happened. So I think there's some undeniable correlation there. So
and it's science. It's science. It is absolute science. And you address this in your latest Blues Fan Reacts video. I'm going to play that clip for you right now, by the way.
One thing that is worthy of mention is the Blues didn't reply to my tweets with Barclay picks this game, and look what happened. We lost. All right, Blues Twitter person, if you're watching this, and I know her name is Elise, but if you're watching this is something that the correlation is there. Okay, there's something going on. You have to reply. We want more dog picks. Okay, everybody wants more dog picks. Give the people what they want.
You hear that, Elise? More dog picks, okay? More. That is the secret to success, Elise. If you're watching this, or if someone shares this with you later, whenever Blues Fan Reacts calls for dog picks, you supply dog picks. It's very simple.
That's right.
It's simple. It's science.
All I gotta do is just tag her in this this little clip on Twitter, and that's all you got to do. And if they don't do it, then we really know the Blues aren't committed to winning this year.
That is true.
That's what it is. It's all in her hands now. Lots of social media managers around the league, they complain like, oh, people are replying to our tweets like the social media managers have any say in what happens on the ice. This case, you do.
Yes, you do.
You absolutely do.
It is absolutely proven.
Give the people what they want.
Give them Barclay. Damn it.
Give them Barclay.
Give him Barclay. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the remaining schedule here for the Blues for the last couple weeks here. By the way, I think we've mentioned this before, but the Blues schedule is so tight, leading up to their final game on I think it's May 13th now? I think it is. I'll have to take a look at that.
But it's the 16th, actually.
It is the 16th. Yeah, because the 13th is the Kings, that one game.
No, it's the 13th. It's the 13th.
It still is the 13th.
Well,
okay. Yeah. They've shuffled things around so much this year. It's crazy. So the first things first, we have 2 games at home coming up in the next couple days against Anaheim. The Blues, the Ducks are 4-6 in their last 10. But they really can't beat anyone that matters. I mean, they played Vegas for a long stretch, and they got taken to the woodshed. They are bottom in the division, and the Blues themselves are 4-2 against the Ducks this year. So, guys, these should be easy dubs, no?
Here we go again. You want me to go off again? I went off in the last podcast about this shit. I don't want to go off again, but that is exactly like word for word, verbatim, bar for bar, what we said in the previous 2-game stretch against Anaheim. We said, okay, you're finally playing a good team in Minnesota. If you play well, your reward is 2 allegedly easy games against the Anaheim. We lost both of them.
They can't beat anyone that matters.
In embarrassing fashion, we lost both of them. I don't care how good the Blues have been playing the last 5 games. It doesn't matter. No game's an easy game anymore. That's not an excuse. It's not. I'm I'm saying. It's that.
I think they're going to split. I honestly do, and the main reason is that Ryan Miller's retiring, so what he's going to get one of those games against the Blues, and for some reason, I don't know if it's going to be that he wants to stick it to St. Louis fans, or if it's just karma in any way, shape, or of anything. That game is going to be the game that the Ducks win, and it's just going to be because of that sole reason alone that they split that series. I think they get one win against him, but the game that they face Ryan Miller in, either they're going to absolutely light him up, or it's going to be like a 2-0 shutout where everybody sits there and goes, "Man, why is Ryan Miller retiring?" That's how it's going to go in my mind.
Yeah, or that's going to be the game that the Blues start Ville Husso, which, as we know, Ville Husso is, Mason. He's not great. So
you know what I think? I think the Blues should do Husso for both games.
Really?
I think they should.
You just said though that these are games that the Blues need to win, but they tend to lay an egg against this type of team. So you're suggesting,
Greg said, we are going to get Ryan Millard in one game. We just will. Okay, it's just it's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting at least one loss, just because same thing. It's a very sentimental game. Why not give Binnington a 2-game rest? Why not? All right, it's just 2 games, and we have I don't even know. We have 7 more games.
We want to have played in a week at that point. I mean, Friday would be the next game that they would play against Vegas, and yes, you're probably going to play Binnington back to back in those games against Vegas. I just don't know if I would. I don't know if I would give him 6 days off before playing back to backs. I think you start him Binnington in Monday's game against Anaheim. You give Husso the Wednesday game. That way, Binnington does have essentially 3 days off, and then he gets the back-to-backs against Vegas. That's got to be the plan going forward. I don't think you give him 6 days off, though.
Yeah, that's asking a lot. Although it is worth kind of noting that Binnington's going through a stretch right now where he's not been bad, but he's not been great, and he's been rung up a little bit these last couple of games. I mean, the Wild got 3 and 4 goals, against them, just about every time. So maybe there's a thought that you give him a bit of a break and a bit of a palate cleanser. But then again, what better way to get a palate cleanser than the worst team in your division, and that's Anaheim coming up. So. I just, if you're Berube, I really don't. I think maybe you split Binnington and Husso and you try to play matchups a little bit. Like if you're starting Husso against Gibson, you're pretty much just waving the flag right there. I mean, because the Blues have a tough time in solving Gibson this year. But maybe if you start Husso against Miller, you got a chance.
And here you want to know how you counteract the Ryan Miller thing too. And this is way out of left field, and maybe it's because the Blues feel like they might be able to clinch. You go out there, you bring David Backes back.
Ooh.
And you play David Backes in the Blues uniform.
The one-day contract.
The one-day contract. He plays against Ryan Miller. It's a whole Ducks, Blues, Miller, Backes retiring, whole thing. Cancels everything out. And then he goes out a winner in his own one and only game with the Blues this year and retires right afterwards.
And scores a hat trick and gets a game-winning goal, right?
I'm not going to go that far. I'm not going to go that far. But
of course, of course. You've seen the I don't even remember Rudy Rudy.
One,
but that one. Yeah, who knows? It could be that kind of story. I mean, you never know.
I was going to say like the natural, Roy Hobbs, the guy that was written off because of overtime, but then he comes back and he's the hero. By the way, I would say I will agree with you guys on this, in that if the Blues do get Backes, and this is just joking, I mean, I don't know if they're actually going to do this or not. They're probably not. But if they do, he'd be a better option in the lineup than Zach fucking Sanford.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right there. I think we can all agree there. Yes. Holy crap.
But in fact, by the way, when you're a middling to low Twitter influencer like our Bluenotes Twitter account is, we have a few hundred followers, but sometimes getting likes can be hard. 21 people at last check liked a tweet last night that I made suggesting that the Blues give up a draft pick to Seattle so that they take Zach Sanford. Now I made that tweet not just because I'm so freaking ready to see Zach Sanford leave town, but I also made it because it might protect like an Oscar Sundqvist. Or someone like that. I know Doug Armstrong, as Dan Ferris pointed out, he said that he's not going to do that type of a deal, but I would like him to at least consider it. What do you think, guys?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, just like that was a pretty hot topic, after the last game, especially, because it was literally Zach Sanford's fault we lost that game. Literally.
Yeah.
But it was a very hot topic, and literally, in the question segment of my video yesterday, half the questions were, "What would you do to get rid of Zach Sanford?"
Including me.
And I said, yeah, including you. I said, I wouldn't mind if we got rid of a third, or to be perfectly honest, even a second. I wouldn't really care. Just get him out of town, because that second, even if it's Zach Sanford in a second leaving town, like that second round pick is worth less than an Oscar Sundqvist, which would be staying on the team. That's my logic behind that. But I think we could get away with just getting a third, And I feel like he deserves that kind of wake up call. I think he's earned it, because Zach Sanford's been good for us. He's treated us well. It's just the last, this year is just not his year anymore, unfortunately. And there comes a time in every player's career where they got to make a decision. And, sometimes the management just has to help with that. Maybe he just needs a fresh start,
Well, here's the thing about this.
That's something I wouldn't mind.
He's a restricted free agent after this season. So
True.
It's not even so much that the Blues have to do anything. They may not even have to offer anything to get rid of him. I'm not entirely sure how the expansion draft and restricted free agency, all that stuff works.
I think RFAs would still be eligible, and then the Kraken would get a exclusive negotiating window essentially with whoever they pick, which is that some people have talked about, like if, for instance, they take Schwartz. If the Blues unprotect Schwartz, if he's going to be a UFA and he's not coming back, the Blues might do that. They might, Seattle might pick Schwartz, and then they'll have an exclusive window to talk with him. Otherwise, he's a free agent. So that's that's my understanding of how that works. And the thing with Sanford, and I'm going to name drop here, and I don't like doing that, but it just this is a moment that happens. So I remember coming out of the Blues press box and sharing an elevator with Jim Thomas with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic. And we were talking about Zach Sanford one game. And with Zach Sanford, we all kind of agree there is a constant need with him to give him a kick in the pants every now and then. He is not going to, have that motivation and that high level of play all the time. He just does not have the motor. He's a big guy, but he's not physical. He's not, a guy that's going to, get you ugly goals, in front of the net. That's just not his style, but yet he's physically set up to be like that. And he leaves you wanting, all the time. It's just, with players like that, he might go to Seattle. He might be a perennial 20, 25 goal scorer for Seattle and may work out great for him. But for some reason, here in St. Louis, he just goes into this malaise. And it keeps he's very maddening to watch as a fan. And I just wonder with Kostin coming over, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit, and maybe some other movements that are coming, if maybe it's just time to say, Zach Sanford's going to eternally have potential, but he may never realize it. Let's cut bait.
Yeah, and I like what Derek says about Bortuzzo. It almost seems like anytime that Sanford needs a kick in the ass, it's Bortuzzo punching him in the face. If that's the only reason Bortuzzo's on this team and Sanford's on this team, maybe we need to schedule a fight every couple of weeks.
Schedule a boxing match.
Yes.
Oh man, they could sell this like pay-per-view even.
Yeah,
they absolutely could. I'd watch the shit out of that.
Every week, two Blues players fight it out, at center ice inside a darkened Enterprise Center. You can have them skate out to the ice with pyro and lights and, like the fog machine going. Yeah. This could be totally like a UFC setup there. In fact, they have to stay within the center ice circle, I guess.
Yeah.
We can call that the circular gon, I guess, and as opposed to the octagon. And just have, two. If you ever wanted to know who would win a fight between Klim Kostin and Robert Bortuzzo, tune in Wednesday night on the St. Louis Blues Twitter account where they will duke it out live.
So who would?
No offense to Klim Kostin, but he's going to get his ass wiped on the floor.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Kostin's a special brand of crazy. I mean, he played. He played over 60 games in Russia and had over 100 penalty minutes. Well, not over 100. He was at 95. But yeah, the guy's nuts.
And talk about, there's a dark horse on this team that you would have to look at as a guy that might come out on top in a tournament of fighters. Look out for Braden Shen too. He seems a little sneaky, a little underhanded in a sense. I would put a little money on Braden Shen being the guy that comes out of the whole thing as being the guy that takes everybody out that you wouldn't expect. So don't lay your money on Bortuzzo just because he's the fighter of the team. You got a couple of guys, especially at the forward position, that might be a little bit shady and underhanded that could go the distance.
I smell a future.
Tarasenko can fight too.
He
Remember
could.
that? He used to fight. He
did.
knows how to fight. And,
He did.
Kyle Clifford, of course.
Kyle Clifford
knows
can
how to
fight, of course.
he does.
Of course he does. Barbashev can fight. He's dropped. In fact, he fought Clifford the game where Clifford and Bennington kind of had their little tete-a-tete.
Bennington would win. Bennington would win. Yeah, you can bring up a great point. That's right.
Oh man. Oh,
you know you wouldn't be able to fight in the goalie pads, right? That extra protection wouldn't be there.
I think what we're going to do for next week for one of our segments, we are going to come up with a tournament. Who is the best St. Louis Blues fighter right now? And we're going to start a bracket, and we're going to talk about the matchups. We'll probably draw them out of a hat, or we'll figure out the formatics about that. But this is a good topic. By the way, Derek points out, anyone remember Dunn fighting Drake Kajula in the minors? There you go. Yeah. So there. Plenty of options. I love it. So let's go ahead and plan on that next week. The St. Louis Blues Tournament of Fighters, or we'll figure out a better name. We have a week. So, anyways, getting back to our original topic here, the Blues remaining schedule here. So they got Anaheim, which, okay, maybe we shouldn't overlook them too much because it is the Blues after all, and they find ways to play bad against bad teams. They have 2 in Vegas, Friday and Saturday. This might be the Blues' first round opponents because they've been on an absolute, tear lately. They won 11 out of their last 12. And of course the Blues, they've played Vegas 6 times this year. They are 2-4, and all 4 of those losses were just about embarrassing in some way. I mean, they didn't just lose; they got humbled by Vegas. So I think, in my opinion, Derek King earlier said that. He thought that he's more spooked by the Wild than any other team. I'm more spooked than Vegas at this point because the Blues have not proven this year that they can play well against them consistently. They can play well against Colorado. They just proved that. They can play well against Minnesota. They just proved that. Vegas, not really. Not really. What do you think, guys? Is Vegas the team you least want to see in the first round?
Yes. Definitely the team I at least want to see in the first round, but I get Derek's point a little bit about being spooked by the Wild because you look at Vegas and you look at Colorado, both of those teams are expected to be there at the end. They have all the pressure in the league essentially on them. Both those teams have been right up there. Vegas was the bridesmaid, not the bride. Colorado hasn't even reached the finals in a long time, so they have a ton of pressure being heaped on them.
We also have no answer for Leonard, as Derek points out.
That's very, very true as well. But once again, get into the playoffs, it's a different animal. It's a different beast. You look at Minnesota, they legitimately have nothing to play for in a sense. No one's expecting, none of us expect them to even be making the playoffs this year. So the fact that they're the 3rd place team, they've got a lot of talent, they have nothing really to lose. So facing off against them, if I'm Colorado or if it ends up being Vegas that plays Minnesota, I'd actually be a little bit frightened of them because they've got skill, they've got young guys, and they have nothing to lose. Colorado, Vegas, they are expected to be there. And I think Vegas and Colorado should both be a little bit scared of playing the Blues as well if they continue to play at this level because the Blues also, in a sense, don't have anything to lose as well. They've got their Stanley Cup from 2 years ago. Yes, it'd be great to get back there and win another one, but the pressure isn't essentially there on the Blues or the Wild, and all the pressure is on Vegas and Colorado. So while I'm scared to play Vegas, I'm actually coming around to the excitement of being able to play them and seeing if we can get their buttholes to tighten just a little bit and scare them enough to upset them. Yes, they've got Petro there. Yes, they've got Fleury there. They've got Stanley Cup experience, but still, they don't have any cups on that team for that team. So there's a little bit of pressure there.
Well, they got close, but they couldn't quite get the job done in the end, which is nothing good to ever say about a guy. So, just keep that in mind. I get it feels kind of like we're playing a game of fuck, marry, kill, with these 3 teams here. Like, which team would we prefer? Which team would we be okay with? Which team we absolutely would not want to play? For me, it's still Vegas, but you bring up a point about Minnesota. And that is Minnesota for years has been the most average team in hockey. They have had a culture of just being boring, unexciting, no momentum either way. Like they're good enough to not be bad, but they're not good enough to be good. That's been kind of their MO. Now they get Kaprizov, who has been a big spark for them. I mean, he has come over and been as advertised. And there's the big debate, over the Calder. It's probably going to be Kaprizov that wins it. But there's some question over, hey, he's played in KHL for a few years. How does he get to win that? Which we can talk about that here in a bit. But then you got him. You got the goaltenders for Minnesota. Cam Talbot is an elite goalie this year. This year he is. His numbers are amazing. I mean, of course, he looked bad against the Blues the past, the 2 games this week. But before then, he had like a .935 save percentage, and his goals against was at or below 2, I believe. He's been a surprise for them. Kakkonen, their backup goaltender, has been a surprise for them. They've had so many players step up. They have kind of a little bit of a team of destiny kind of feel to them, a little bit similar to where the Blues were, because everyone wrote off the Blues, a couple years ago, and then of course we got this. So Mason, let's go to you on this. I say, Vegas is the team I fear the most. I would say then it's Minnesota. And believe it or not, I would actually want to face Colorado in the first round, but you're kind of wincing at that.
No,
you want no part of Colorado.
What's gonna happen is, we talked about this halfway through the season when we just weren't meeting expectations. We said, okay, either we're missing the playoffs, we're going out in the first round, or we're winning the cup, and it's not going to be anything else. We're not going to lose in the second round. We're not going to lose in the third round. We are going to either lose in the first or win the cup. It's going to be one of those two, and I actually am on board with that. I totally agree with that, because just like 2019. All the pieces fell together halfway through the season all at once. They all came together just immediately. Craig Berube started getting his message out there. Jordan Binnington was playing out of his mind. All these like key pieces to the Blues. The defense was stepping up. They're playing the best that they were playing the best hockey that they had played all year. Everything fell apart. Everything came together at the exact same time. And that's what's happening with Minnesota right now. So that means that Minnesota is a scary team. I wouldn't put them scarier than Colorado or Vegas, but they are a scary team, and you cannot count them out, much like the Blues right now. If they finish this season strong, if they beat, which the first round, it's obviously going to be either Vegas or Colorado. We're playing them in the first round. There's no, it's just inevitable at this point. But I mean, I'd rather play Vegas. I think I would, because I don't know. The Blues just have a way of matching their physical style. And in addition to, Vegas having the best fourth line in the league, the Blues have the second best fourth line. And oftentimes that's what it comes down to is, a line by line comparison. I think we got a shot against Vegas. Against Colorado, that's tough to tell because, I mean, like I said, the playoffs are just they're weird. Okay. It's like 2019 Tampa Bay Lightning is my first example, but that's happened 1,000 times before. But, weird things happen in the playoffs. And I think if the Blues could get past, whoever they play in the first round, whether that's Colorado or Vegas, they can beat anybody, because I think it's a pretty fair consensus that Vegas and Colorado are not only the best two in the division, they're the best two in the league. Two of the best in the league.
Absolutely.
If they could beat either of them, they could beat anybody.
They really can. And
it's just true.
And as Derek knows, first round is going to be the hardest series probably. Another thought here, we were talking about, Vegas going on a big run lately, 11 of the last 12. And, the Blues kind of coming out of a funk a little bit. Colorado's in a funk a little bit right now. The Blues kind of put them in one. And then the Wild are still kind of, they're playing well. But there's something to be said maybe about momentum going into a playoff series. And you wonder if Vegas, going on this crazy run, if, as we all know, hockey's very cyclical. It's very up and down. Teams can, play great for 12 games in a row and then stink up the joint the next 6, or what have you. I wonder if Vegas is going to be burned out going into this playoffs a little bit because they are playing so well. And then the first chance of adversity, we've seen teams that have gone on these incredible runs. Their first loss, just shatters them, because you get so confident in those runs. I really do believe you get a lot of self-confidence. You get a little cocky, maybe a little bit. Maybe the locker room's a little cocky. Maybe everyone's being a little bit too loose. And then, all of a sudden, like, let's say it's the Blues coming out. Let's say the Blues come in, they sucker punch, Vegas and win 5-1 and, break their good run. Maybe they limp into the playoffs, after a great run, after they get humbled after, a big streak, and maybe they play poorly in the first round. Whereas, a team like Colorado, maybe they figure it out. These final, I think they have 4 more games left before going into the playoffs. Maybe they figure it out in these next 4 games and they come into the playoffs hot. Maybe the Wild plus find another gear. Momentum, I think, is key. And I think the Blues actually are in a good spot right now in that, they're picking up their momentum. They're still playing well despite, Saturday night's loss. Maybe this is the right time for them to get going. And maybe, just maybe, I feel more confident this week than I have the past couple of weeks about the Blues going on a run. I think I've officially entered the territory where it's quite plausible the Blues could get a first round upset. I think it's quite plausible now, much more plausible than it was last week. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I think so too. And you're going to your point about a team, getting a loss maybe in game 1 and kind of falling downhill. That's the thing that you don't want a team like a Vegas or even a Colorado essentially to get going. Facing them in the second round after they've already won a first round series, that's going to be tough because they're going to be rolling. They're going to know what it takes to win a series and keep going. You don't want to get a team that's going on a run. You want to be able to get them and hit them early. So whether it's Vegas or Colorado, if you go in there and let's say you steal game 1 on the road, all of a sudden that complexion of the first round changes and you do have a chance to have that upset. And yeah, the Blues, I think, are doing it at the exact right time. They're winning games. They're getting a little hot. They've got some guys that are injured, Tarasenko and Krug essentially as well. And
done as well.
It'd be very interesting. You've got Vegas, Colorado, Minnesota, all have clinched. So all of them are kind of letting off the gas a little bit. And it may have been, maybe they're getting off the gas a little too soon. Maybe they clinched last week. So they're going to go 3 weeks essentially since they clinched before playoffs hit. Whereas the Blues are going to be fighting to the very end. Now, you don't want to be that team that fights all the way up to the last day in order to clinch, because then you've essentially burnt yourself out in that first round series. You're kind of gassed. But if the Blues clinch, maybe first game against Vegas this upcoming week, and then they've got another week where they can kind of give some guys rest, but still continue to play, what have you. That's probably like the sweet spot in my mind of, hey, you're playing consistent, meaningful games up until about a week before the playoffs. Then you got that week to kind of maintain your team, get yourself set up and ready to go, get your rotation right as far as when your goalies are starting, how you want your players to get their rest and all that. Then you hit the playoffs and you can go. Whereas these teams that have clinched, they've kind of already started that, but maybe it's a little too long. And then another team maybe clinches on the last day and they're using their best guys and they start the next round 2 days later, they're gassed. So I think the Blues are at that sweet spot right now. If they can clinch with one of those games in Vegas, that might be the best position the Blues could put themselves in.
You bring up a point, though, about, Colorado and Minnesota already clinching their playoff spots, and the thought maybe they're taking their foot off the gas a little bit, because I don't think Minnesota, they have a chance of getting second, but that's just going to give them home ice. I mean, that's not going to be, they're still going to have, and probably end up facing Colorado the way things are going right now. There's not a whole lot of position jostling going on. So I'll ask you, Mason, is there a chance maybe these last couple of games against Colorado and Minnesota were something of a mirage a little bit, and that we weren't actually seeing the full capability of Colorado and Minnesota?
No, they don't strike me as those kinds of teams. They strike me as they strike me as the well-oiled machines where they're going to fight till the very end. Maybe they take their foot off a little bit. Maybe I don't think they take their foot off. I think they just try new combinations for the playoffs. That's probably where a lot of if they don't play well, that's probably going to be wise, because the coaches are doing experiments, seeing what works in the playoffs, what doesn't work. That's the only reason that I can see any of these teams, playing even remotely badly for the last 5 games of the season.
And it's not a very hockey thing to like start like, laying down for another team. I mean, it's not a hockey thing. Like, you might say like in baseball, maybe it happens a little bit, like maybe you take a few extra seconds getting to that fly ball if you're already eliminated from contention, that kind of thing. But hockey, nah, hockey's a warrior sport. So, definitely got a point. By the way, Derek points out, wouldn't we probably have to go through both Vegas and the Avs? Well, we're gonna have to play two out of either. We have to go through at least one of Vegas, one of Colorado, or one of Minnesota in some sort of combination in the first 2 rounds. So he's got a point. So they need to figure out a way to beat Vegas. And I want to give Dan Ferris some dap. He posted in the Justin Falk Stan Club. I think there's the mental block right now versus Vegas, almost like the blocks that existed for Chicago, that existed for Los Angeles, San Jose, basically all the California teams, and Colorado over the years. Once you get to thinking you're beat before the puck drops, you're pretty much going to go the self-fulfilling prophecy route. And that's true. So I think these 2 games coming up against Vegas are going to be very important for the Blues to see how they come out against Vegas, to see if they can get a win or 2 even against Vegas, or at least at least points, looking competitive, keeping the games close. Because if that's going to be the first round matchup, you want to know that the Blues are going to play well against Vegas, and what better way to do that than right before the playoffs start? And maybe if the Blues get a win or 2 and they look competitive in both games, maybe they get in Vegas's head a little bit. Maybe they start getting Vegas to doubt themselves. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with that momentum. If the Blues are the team that, shatters, the Vegas good run, maybe they start doubting themselves going into the playoffs. Maybe there's an opportunity there. I mean, because as we know, Vegas, they're not immune to choking in the playoffs.
No,
they've done it. They in their short history. That is one thing they have proven, is that they can choke in the playoffs. So
they're pretty damn good at it too.
They are
very entertaining. Very entertaining
good.
Game 7.
It was probably the most entertaining Game 7 I watched that wasn't a Blues game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then after Vegas, you have one more game against the Kings. That's a makeup game. The Blues went 2-5 against the Kings, by the way. So I'm definitely not going to call that an easy dub, Mason, because the Blues have proven that the Kings have proven they're not an easy win this year, at least against the Blues. Hopefully the Blues have the playoffs wrapped up by then. I mean, Arizona isn't knocking anyone's socks off lately, and they just have 4 games left. So I think that's pretty. I think that question is mostly decided at this point, but you never know. And then the Blues cap off the season with 2 more against the Minnesota Wild. You know what? I am going to, I don't know if the Blues will face the Wild in the playoffs. I mean, it's very likely it's going to be Vegas and Colorado in some way, shape, or form. But I will say though that having the Wild in the West Division with the Blues this year is going to help the rivalry immensely when both teams return to the Central next year, and they're going to take Arizona with them, which of course we got our own issues with Arizona to deal with, mostly bad.
Let's not go there.
We're not going to talk about Arizona. They scare us.
We already lost the playoff series to them this year, so
yeah, we did. Yeah,
we took it to Game 7.
We took it to Game 7, but then they took us out. But yeah, I never viewed Minnesota as a rival really before this season. I mean, they're Iowa separates us, our 2 states. Minnesota always has felt kind of isolated up there a little bit. Like I think the Jets are probably their biggest rivals just because of the geography. But I think maybe now. And now that they've played 8 competitive games, or will have played 8 competitive games, that this could be a good rivalry for the future. I'm actually looking forward to Wild. It's actually seeing the Wild again, which I have not been able to say in years because they've been boring.
Well, back in the 80s and 90s, the North Stars were a huge rivalry with the Blues.
Yeah.
So having the Minnesota connection again is really, really cool. I mean, we had a lot of competitive matchups against Minnesota, and it's nice to see a team up there that's not boring, and you aren't. I mean, it's always nice to dominate franchises, but it's even better when there's competition between the two. I mean, that's why the whole Cardinals Cubs thing kind of is blasé in a sense that it's usually either the Cardinals are really good or the Cubs are really good. It's never where both are really good at the same time, and those matchups are like premier. Now with St. Louis, Minnesota in the past, that's how it's been. Either Minnesota's been good or St. Louis has been good, and the matchups have been kind of Now that you've got two really good franchises and the teams are good and young too, those might become must-see games. And while the Chicago-St. Louis rivalry may be waning a little bit, the Nashville one, the Minnesota one, the Colorado one, the Dallas one. I mean, everything in the Central right now for the Blues, you're having these really nice, young, budding rivalries kind of coming back. And it may turn back into a black and blue Norris division, essentially.
God, it's going to be like blood sport whenever the Blues go back in, because they got grievances with just about every single team. I mean, the Blues and Stars, as you said, that kind of dates back to the North Stars, but I consider that a very competitive rivalry. It's not a rivalry of malice, I would say, I mean, because I went as a Blues fan in my Blues garb, I went to Dallas, and actually the fans down there were really cool. I actually gained an appreciation for them. But that's a competitive rivalry, and I still get PTSD over Ben Bishop, in Game 7 of the 2019 playoffs. I mean, that's just wow. So you got them, you got Nashville, and their sister wives. So that's always going to be a rivalry for various reasons. Chicago's always going to be a rivalry. We got Minnesota now. The Jets hate us. Yeah. They still hate us from the playoffs, before. Colorado's never really liked us. I mean, it's just, you're right. The Central is going to be it's going to be lit next season. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be nice. And I like how the Blues and Arizona are really forming a rivalry. I think that's going to, more than Minnesota, I think the Blues and Coyotes are going to form a really strong rivalry. But yeah, to your point, Minnesota's playing better hockey, and the Blues are playing better hockey. So, and they're both young teams as well. So yeah, I could see something like that going on. But I mean, Chicago is always going to be the main one. I think I don't see that. It might be waning, but that's just because they weren't put in the same. I think that I wish they were in this division. I wish we could have played it 8 times. Even if we lost 6 of them, I still I love that rivalry.
Chicago.
It's Chicago. You love to hate them, right? Yes. You love to hate them. So I don't see that going anywhere. But when it comes to like you said, Minnesota, Arizona, I love that. I love that there might be some renewed heat there.
Yeah, I remember during the 2020 All-Star skills competition, Patrick Kane won one of the skills comps, and he was getting booed out of the building. And especially because I think he was going up against the Blues guy, too. I forget if it was O'Reilly or Perron, but he was going up against one of them in a shot accuracy competition. And it was just, it almost felt like being at the old arena, how much we, just piled it on Patrick Kane. It was great stuff. So the Blues are playing better, but there's a couple players that I'm a little worried about for various reasons. So first things first, let's bring up Jaden Schwartz again, because my opinion's shifting on him a little bit, just from recent weeks. Jaden Schwartz, of course, is an unrestricted free agent. He makes, $5.35 million this year. It's kind of hard to say what he's going to get this free agency because of COVID and, the cap staying where it is. I've heard some things that maybe he's going to test free agency. I don't like playing the sources game because, I mean, any idiot on the internet can say that they have sources and maybe they occasionally get it right and then they'll brag about how they were right. I don't play that game. I legitimately don't have any deep sources within the Blues. I'm just a fan like you guys. But I have heard some things about Schwartz and that he might want to test the waters. Did you guys see the play last night when Schwartz had the puck right in front of Binnington and he was trying to do some dirty dangles and almost ended up allowing a goal? That and the fact that the guy just cannot score a goal to save his life. I mean, I'll go to you on this, Mason. I mean, what NHL team is going to look at Jaden Schwartz's play this year and just be ready to throw a bunch of money at him?
Buffalo.
Well, oh yeah, true. They need a Taylor Hall replacement. Oh no! Oh God, that is so true.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Buffalo, where dreams go to die.
Yeah,
Buffalo and Edmonton, both of them. Don't forget Edmonton.
I'm just imagining all of those, 2-on-1s with Eichel and Schwartz, and Eichel feeds Schwartz a nice pass, and it ends up going off the glass behind the goalie. I mean, I'm just imagining that.
No,
My
but
God.
no. To your credit, I think not very many, competent GMs in this league will look at Jaden Schwartz and go, "Oh, I'm going to throw him a 6x6."
Yeah.
It's just
Your
not
favorite contract.
well. Oh yes, my favorite contract. Still not on board, but different tangent. But it seems like we bring that up every damn episode. We bring up how much I hate that. Thank you.
Because it's such a big part of this team going forward at 6x6.
Wonderful, man. Thank you for that. Thank you.
It's a handcuff.
Trying to get me riled up.
It's a handcuff.
52 weeks a year, 6 years. We're going to be doing a lot of talking about this, aren't we?
Let's see. So that's going to be, 52 times 6.
That's 312.
That's a year's worth of talking about one thing for the next 6 years.
And then times that by 6. So 312 times 6, you are, I would say, in a ballpark of about 2,000 times the next 6 years. So brace yourself, Mason.
Anyway, I don't see. Anyway, I see. I'm still kind of on that train. I would love Schwartz to stick around. I mean, that's too much leadership has gone out the window. Like we mentioned, before that said wonderful extension on Biddington, you said which player would be more valuable to the team going forward. I'm still saying Schwartz. I'm still definitely on that train. I think that he's just such a big presence in the room. He's done so much for this organization already. And maybe we should take advantage of the fact that, hey, a lot of these GMs probably aren't willing to take a chance on him right now. Maybe it's an intentional thing. You never know.
Maybe.
So, I think if we bring him back, if we do like a $4 million, $5 million over a 3 or 4 year, I wouldn't mind, even if we overpay for him just for a little bit. He's one of those players that I wouldn't be mad about, same with Ryan O'Reilly's the other one. If we overpay for him, I'm okay with it. If we overpay for Schwartz, I'm okay with it. They're two key pieces of this team.
Well, Jaden Schwartz, by the way, I should point out that he will be 29 in June. So he's kind of in a similar situation, I feel, that Petro is in, although I think Petro is the much better player, in that this might be one of his last chances to cash in per se and get himself a contract. Yeah. I just don't think Wagsy's played well enough to get that deal, and I'm kind of wondering if maybe he's a candidate for a bridge deal.
Oh, yeah, definitely. 100% a candidate for a bridge deal. And he still has the ability to go out there and prove himself. The one thing that you have to take into account is that he is a streaky goal scorer. And
yes,
streaky goal scorers do still get good contracts. And teams that are right on the cusp of being a great team will look at that and go, okay, we've got enough greatness around us that we can afford to have a guy come in and be a streaky goaltender. Because, look what he did in the playoffs in 2019. In 2019, everybody was lamenting. They're like, God, we got to get rid of Schwartz. He is just so snake bit. He hasn't scored a goal in forever.
I may have been one of them.
Let's see. It's 2021. He's been snake bitten and hasn't scored a lot of goals.
I can see the shame on your face, Tom, when you said that.
but in 2019, what did he do? In 2019, what did he do? He absolutely dominated the Jets in the first round series. So he has the ability to turn it on. He has the ability to go on runs, and a team that's right there on the cusp may be sitting there thinking, okay, we may overpay for him as well and bring him in, because when playoff time comes around, he's a hard worker. He goes to the dirty areas of the ice. He's not going to back down. He's going to hustle the entire game, whether he's scoring goals or not. He's a glue guy, and some teams are going to overpay for a glue guy, and the Blues should be one of them. You saw what Alex Steen did for this team, and for the longest time, I was not an Alex Steen proponent. I thought he was a guy that was breaking up the team. I thought he was a guy that drove coaches out. But after kind of diving back into it and looking into it, he was the perfect guy for this team, and Jaden Schwartz is just the next Alex Steen on this team. So once again, you may have to overpay for him, but I think that it's a good overpay, and I see the Blues doing it. You talk about $3 or $4 million over the next couple of years. He's making 5.3 this year.
Yeah,
I don't sit there and see him taking that big of a pay cut. I think if anything, he may be looking for a pay raise. The Blues may have to go up to 5.5 and go from there. So it's a little bit of a pay raise, and you may be overpaying for a third line guy. But at that point, I think I'm okay with it with Jaden Schwartz.
Right. Well, with Alex Steen, I didn't mind that contract either. It was
after a while,
approaching $6 million. I was like,
he was one of those players. I was like, I jokingly whined about it, just like, oh, we're paying $6 million for this. But I think every single Blues fan knows how key of a role he played for the team. Not only was he a mentor in the locker room, he did everything that was asked of him. He could be slotted damn near anywhere in the lineup, first off. Second off, like I said, mentor for all the young players. Robert Thomas has straight up said he wouldn't be where he is in his career without Alexander Steen and his guidance. And not only that, but the team around him, whoever he plays with, gives it 120%. Whoever you put on his line, because they're there, they want to impress Alex Steen. I think Jaden Schwartz could give off that same vibe.
Yeah, and I think this year has shown how valuable Alex Steen was to the St. Louis Blues, because I believe that the Blues have missed his leadership in the locker room. And Steen was a guy that, and I heard the same things about Steen, and that he may have chased off coaches or whatever, but time has shown he's not a vocal guy in the locker room. He's always team first. Like, I remember when the discussion was had with him and Coach Berube about going down to the fourth line with Sundqvist and Barbashev, Berube said it was like a 5-minute conversation, and Steen did not protest one bit. He was very much whatever it was to help the club. Now, was he always this way? I don't know, but I mean, to me, he never came off as a rabble rouser, in the locker room and the locker room cancer, as they say. I think that was other players, like I've heard Oshie, wasn't the best guy in the locker room. He tended to sulk a little bit. We all know
Ryan Miller was the other one,
and Patrick Berglund was kind of a head case.
Samonko was too.
Exactly. But getting back to Schwartz, I mean, I showed a graphic on my personal Twitter account a couple days ago from JFresh. It's his updated analytics card, basically. And it shows that, Schwartz is having a bad time finishing this year. I mean, that's proven to anyone that just watches him play. He's still a play driver. I mean, he still can contribute on offense, at least, as a playmaker. But the biggest thing that stood out to me was that in terms of analytics, his defense numbers are elite for a forward. Yeah. And, we often don't look at the defensive side of things when it comes to forwards, because when you think forwards, you think of your typical goal scorers. And a lot of times defensive players, defensive forwards, they don't get noticed. They don't get noticed because they're doing their jobs. And they're doing their jobs very well. Like, we probably, I mean, Ryan O'Reilly gets credit for doing so many things well, being a captain, being a playmaker, having a sick backhand, as we saw against Talbot the other night. But he's also an elite defensive forward. And you don't hear his name called much in the defensive zone, except if he makes a big play. But just in general, when you're playing defense, you're not supposed to be noticed. You're not supposed to have the spotlight on you. And say what you will about Schwartz's streakiness, which, I'll have another point on that here in a bit, but he's consistently an engine for this team. And I don't think he is due for a big raise. I don't think his play merits a big raise. I think he's going to get about what he's making now. Maybe even takes a slight pay cut and goes down to $5 million. Maybe on a 1 year or 2 year deal, just on a short bridge deal, and basically saying, Blues are saying, oh, you didn't prove it this year. Well, we'll give you another chance because you're Jaden Schwartz and you've given us a lot of good years. We'll give you another chance to prove it and then make your money, next year. I think the Blues would be amenable to that. But, Schwartz, every time we bring up Jaden Schwartz, I'm often reminded of Jeff Courtnall. Jeff Courtnall was a very similar player in that he was insanely streaky. I mean, he was a guy that would score goals, kind of like a Mike Hoffman, where he would score goals in bunches and then he would disappear, for a couple of weeks. But he was always a moxie guy. He was always a, kind of a rabble rouser. He wouldn't drop the gloves, but he was just kind of a pest out there. And I kept thinking, I was very sad when he retired because of concussion issues. And I think about that, and I think of, man, it would really suck if Schwartz was gone because, of the things that he does, like a Jeff Courtnall did for the Blues. So it's a tough situation for both. I mean, for both the Blues and Schwartz, because Schwartz hasn't played the best this year, but I guess like the old song goes, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I don't know if the Blues are going to have the guts to actually test that theory out. But then again, it's all up to Schwartz as well. I mean, he's got to want to resign. here in St. Louis as well. And who knows what he's thinking? Who really knows what he's thinking? So we'll see how that plays out. Of course, we talked a little bit about Zach Sanford. No one likes him anymore. I think it's pretty safe to say that we'd love to see him elsewhere, next year. So I'm not going to waste any more breath on him. Tarasenko. Tarasenko, we've talked a little bit about him and, how he's been kind of up and down since he's come back. Well, now he's hurt. And have you guys heard anything about his injury or how long he's going to be out? It's day to day. Day to day. I hope it is, and I hope this isn't another thing.
Well, that's straight from Berube's mouth. He
yeah,
said, lower body day to day, nothing bigger than that.
Yeah, so it sounds like he picked up a knock, and hopefully he comes back healthy. But he hasn't, even when he's been healthy, he hasn't been the spark that the Blues needed. And maybe now that we're heading towards the playoffs, we were kind of talking last week about if we exposed him to Seattle, maybe it would light a fire under him. Do you feel maybe that he has something to prove before the playoffs?
I don't think he has anything to prove before the playoffs. I think he has, if anything, he has to prove that he's healthy 100%. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. And I still keep going back time and time and time again. And this is something that has been the Blues' issue with Tarasenko for 5, 6, 7 years. And every time on Twitter, whenever he scores a goal on the power play and he's in front of the net, it's like, oh, hey, guess what? You put a guy in a position like that and a quick shot and he scores a goal. That's freaking surprising. Yeah. They don't utilize him in the way that I think he should be utilized. He's got the TJ Oshie type of build. He's a guy that needs to be in the middle of the ice where he can use that quick release. He's not a Ovechkin guy. He's not a one-time slap shot from the corner kind of guy. He needs to be in the middle of the ice, in front of the net, quick release. I still go back to the playoff series against Colorado or against Chicago, where they're like, they broke down that the puck is on his stick for like 0.04 tenths of a second. And then it goes in the net. Like, you have a guy with that quick of a release, put him in a spot where he doesn't have to have a whole lot of room to maneuver, because it feels like when he has time, he overthinks.
He does. Yes.
You need to get him in a spot where it's just boom, 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 instantaneous. Puck, stick, goal. Puck, stick, goal. Puck, stick, goal.
Ovechkin.
But see, even Ovechkin still has that time, because that pass is still having to come across ice. He's winding up and he's ready for the shot. Tarasenko doesn't need to wind up. It needs to be, hey, the puck's down low. All of a sudden it's boom, 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 go. Boom, 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 go. Boom, 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 go. That's what Tarasenko needs. When he has that time to think, he overthinks it. And I'm the same way. I am terrible when I have space in hockey. I suck. But you give me that, you put me in front of the net and just react to a puck, it's going in the net. And that's how Tarasenko is. He's not that kind of goal scorer where he needs all that time to think. He just needs to fire the puck at the net. And if you continue to put him in spots where he's able to do that, like on the power play in front of the net, then he's going to be successful and you're going to see a whole new player. I get the point of not trying to expose him to too much physicality, but you got to get past that. If you're going to put him in a place to succeed, you need to get past it, think he's healthy, put him there and go. And I don't think the Blues are going to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I never played hockey growing up, but I did play a little basketball, and I had an issue where sometimes if I had a lot of space and I was right by the basket, I would just clank it or, just completely miss it. And, the coach, took me aside after one game because I was their starting power forward. And he was like, hey, you're overthinking it out there. If you're thinking, you're stinking. Basically, just do it. Just put it up. You know how to score. You've done it in practice. Just freaking do it. And I improved because once I got the ball in my hands, I wasn't thinking like, okay, should I lay it up and go to the right side or left side? I just let my instinct do it. And Vladimir Tarasenko is such an instinctual player that he needs to stop overthinking. He just needs to, as the Nike slogan goes, just do it. Just do it. By the way, Mason, I want to pitch this one to you here. You tweeted last night, Jake Wallman is elite. So do we like Jake Wallman now?
I like Jake Wallman now. Okay. Last game he looked good, and the game before he looked good. Yeah, there's a reason I didn't put an exclamation point. I put a question mark. All right, let's just get that straight.
Yeah,
all right? I specifically put a question like, is he maybe okay? I mean, he's been a hell of a lot better than Vince Dunn, I think.
That's true. I will say this. I was hard on Wallman at the start of the season. I thought
I was too.
He looked lost on defense, and I kept suggesting maybe he should be a forward. because he's got good speed and he's got a heavy shot. Put him left wing. But no, he looks a lot more comfortable, in playing NHL minutes, which I think that was part of the issue with, we forget that, even though he's had so many years in the minors, I mean, the NHL and AHL are two different speeds, two different sets of skill levels, and sometimes there can be a bit of a hurdle to jump, and I think Walman just need a little bit of time to, jump the proverbial hurdle. I would be interested in seeing him back next year. I think he's an RFA after the season. Yeah, I think he's earned another shot. I don't know where he fits in because Gunner's probably gone. I think he might even retire because he's 35 and he's it's a neck injury with him, right?
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah.
Knee.
Oh, it's a knee with him.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of someone else. But yeah, a major knee injury when you're at the end, 34 going on 35 and you're already like a third pairing guy. I mean, it might just be time.
Yeah.
You're gonna have Scott Perunovich coming back. You have Vince Dunn might be gone.
That'll be
Yeah, I'm waiting for Perunovich. Even before you joined the show, Mason, Wags and I were huge Scott Perunovich fans. And
I've been a huge Scott Perunovich fan for the 2 years he's been with the organization now.
Yeah, so good.
That's exciting stuff.
It is, and the thing I like about Perunovich is the fact that even though he's a left-handed shot, he played on the right side in college, and he still earned a Hobie Baker playing on his offhand. So he's going to have that versatility, and we're not going to have to play can he play on his right side? He can play wherever.
He can play anywhere, which is so valuable. It's so valuable because then we can overstock. If there's a left-handed or a right-handed defenseman that we already have a surplus of, but this guy's good, he can transition like that. That's what's so nice about it. And that's a skill that, it used to be pretty prevalent, in 80s, 90s hockey where players could switch handedness. It's not really a thing anymore. Players like that are so hard to find. And having Scott Perunovich do that and maybe for the playoffs, switch to the hand he's more comfortable with or do how many players genuinely can just decide I'm going to play on the left this time around? Very few, and then still compete at an NHL level.
Exactly. And it's been kind of sad this year just because, no offense to Steven Santini and Mitch Reinke, even Nico,
big offense to him. He stole my number. He's stealing my number.
That jerk. That absolute jerk. Who does he think he is?
What do you think? Terrible. He's Blues Fan Reacts? Nobody's Blues Fan Reacts. I'm Blues Fan Reacts.
That's right. That is right. That is very clear. And of course, no offense to Nico Mikkola, who I still am very high on, but I often wonder where the Blues would be this year or how Perunovich would have looked this year, with everything that was going on. Because I think he definitely would have had his chances. But it's kind of, and of course, another guy we can't complain about is Vince Dunn because he's not playing. So we can't complain about him this time. So we can skip
no
that.
Scapegoat. Zach Sanford's a scapegoat this episode.
Yeah, Zach Sanford's our scapegoat. Keep up. It's Sanford. It's not Dunn. Dunn will come back. I'm sure he'll be back. But yeah, we can take a break. All you Dunn haters, sorry, we can't get that in. So, by the way, Derek points out that our drought started when Schwartz was injured. Coincidence? It's possible. I think it's possible. I mean, again, forwards contribute more than just goals. And Schwartz is definitely a guy that contributes in so a lot of areas. And no, Zach Sanford is not a defensive forward, Derek. So
I'd also point out that with Thomas being out too, that's another swoon that we saw. I mean, the team played well when he was in, then he went out with a quote unquote upper body injury, and then that's when they started on their losing streak. He comes back and they start playing well.
Now he's back, and the Blues have won 4 of 5, and they've got points in their last 5. I mean, he's a spark when he's healthy, when he's confident. He is an absolute spark, and I'm looking forward to seeing a healthy Robert Thomas and what he does in the playoffs, because we saw him in the 2019 playoffs. He was a contributor. He was a very good contributor in those playoffs.
And I think teams should be really scared of that Thomas Kyrie Hoffman line because it's got speed, skill, and goal scoring ability. That could be the Blues' secret weapon when it comes to the playoffs this year.
That could be. That is a scary line on paper. Absolutely. Finally, Torrey Krug. I feel we're almost at the end of his first full year with the Blues. He contributes assists. He's not a total sieve on his end. I mean, that I feel he's basically come as advertised, but a lot of fans are kind of getting onto him a little bit because he hasn't scored any goals. Are you guys worried about that?
I'm not saying. Go for it, Wade.
I was just saying, I'm pretty sure this is a conversation we were having last year too, was it not? About another defenseman that was on the Blues. Justin. He's not Justin Falk. Okay,
no,
he's not going to have the same kind of rebound that Falk had this year. But I was telling my dad last night, I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be here for his entire contract and he's going to be an elite defender, and the Blues fans are going to be like, "Oh, I'm so glad we got Torrey Krug."
He does have a no trade clause.
He does, but he doesn't have a no movement clause. Two different things. They're different. They're different. But
I know that,
I'm just saying, I'm willing to give him next year to see what he does, because you got to remember, it's not that he's just changing teams. Same thing with Justin Falk. He's changing conferences. Okay. Mm-hmm. The Western Conference is wildly different than the East. The East is a little bit more wide open, a little bit more defensive, offensive friendly. The West is so heavy, so compact, and it's going to take a little while to get used to that. So I am of the mindset that I'm giving him next year. If he comes out next year and has the same type of season, I'd say the Blues shop him. But if he comes out next year and he gives us the 12 to 15 goals, he continues to give solid defense, and he does quarterback the power play, which is why they brought him in, I'm okay with the next couple of years. Now, get into year 4, maybe you look at trading him. But I'm willing to give him that year because of what we saw with Justin Falk the last 2 years. And he hasn't been the guy that we are trying to run out of town like we were Falk last year. So I think he's got a little bit more to give, and I'm willing to give him next year to see if that's possible.
I am too. I'm not writing him off yet at all, and I don't think there's really is a reason to. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and pop up for you right now here his current player card with JFresh, just for comparison's sake. And this is a player right here. Let me go ahead and see if I can zoom in on this a little bit for you here for the benefit of our video viewers. I guess it's not going to
playing a Mike Wazowski again.
Exactly. But if you can see on the screen, in fact, let me do this here real quick. I'm going to just do a little bit of computer.
So while you do
here.
that, I am going to say that I think I'm Torrey Krug definitely hasn't been the Torrey Krug we saw with Boston, but like to Wags' point, he's changing conferences, he's changing teams. It's a whole new atmosphere for him. I think next year he'll come out swinging. I really do. I think, like you said, 1 goal. That's like he's on a maybe 2 goal pace, this is from a player who we're used to seeing get pot 9, 10, 11, 12 goals a season, so he is a contributor in the lineup. And like Tom said, he's not a sieve by any stretch. He's been actually pretty good defensively just through the eye test. I haven't, like I said, that player card, I haven't really seen it, but I think he definitely is going to grow into this team. And I think fans are going to love him. I think he's going to, I think he might set career highs with this team. I genuinely do. He strikes me as that kind of a player who can really turn on the gas when he can. So
exactly, and his analytics here that now that it's finally popped up here shows that he still rates very highly on offense. He's very effective on the power play. He plays quality of competition. He plays some of the best players in the game. The team trusts him, and if you look at his timeline, over the past few years, his wins above replacement and his offensive and defensive numbers. I mean, his defense is maybe not as good as it's been, and it's not looking very favorably for him, but offensively he's actually having one of his better years. I mean, just in terms of play driving and coordinating the offense. So guys, Torrey Krug's fine. I think he's going to be fine. I don't think we have anything to really worry about with him.
I'm not worried about it. No way. And 6.5, like for a player like Torrey Krug, we didn't bring him on to be, the defensive whiz. That's not why we brought him on. We brought it on because we wanted power play help, and less than 10 games, we've sure have gotten that, haven't we?
And we brought him on because he brings an offensive aspect to the blue line that the Blues have utilized so well the last 2 years. So he's going to be fine. All right. No, not worth panicking over. He's a good player for 6.5. It's a good contract, even if it's a 6.5 by
7.
I'm not worried. Usually players like that, usually contracts like that, I am worried, but not what's working.
And you have to also look at the fact that plus minus is not like a great statistic as far as determining defense, but he has a +8 this year, and he's a top pairing defenseman. So yes, that's coupled with the forwards and among other things, but he hasn't been a plus defender since 2015-16. He also has 25 penalty minutes this year. That's the lowest total of penalty minutes since 2014-15. So he's playing disciplined hockey. He's playing smart hockey. He has 28 assists this year. So it's not like he is he is 6th on the Blues in points this year. So it's not like he's not producing. It's just inconsistently with what we're used to from him. I think he's changed his game around a little bit. And you also have to look at Mike Hoffman, too. We talked in the past about how he's just been a sieve defensively. At least over the last couple of weeks, he's been very mindful of his defensive responsibilities. He's back-checking. He's got excitement. Like, there's playing on a winning team changes you. And we're seeing that a little bit with the guys like Torrey Krug and Mike Hoffman. Things that we don't normally associate with them, they're actually doing better than what you think. And maybe that's something that it just took this long to get to.
Maybe.
And maybe we're at a point now where everything's coming together and we might go on that run like we're thinking.
I'm sure there's going to be Ottawa and Florida fans. Wait, Florida has fans that are listening or watching to the show afterwards, and they're like, "Are you guys talking about a different Mike Hoffman?" Because
I'm convinced that Florida fans don't exist. I've never met one.
I'm convinced. I'm totally convinced that any fan you see inside that arena in Miami is probably getting paid to be there,
or a hologram. It could be a hologram.
Could be. That's right.
No, Florida doesn't have that good a technology.
You'd be surprised. A lot of New York business, goes down to Miami. So good. I mean, you never know. And finally, here on this show, I got a question for our listeners and viewers here. Hi, kids. Do you like violence? Because Klim Shady is coming to America. Klim Kostin himself.
Oh, yes.
Jim Thomas of the Post-Dispatch confirms that Kostin will join the Blues on Tuesday. In theory, that would be in time for the Blues' second game against Anaheim, and then more likely probably the 2 games against Vegas. He'll at least be an option. I'm personally looking forward to seeing more of him and less of Sanford, but we'll see if Berube actually does that. With Avangard Omsk, who is, by the way, the KHL's Gagarin Cup champions, by the way. We're getting a player with championship pedigree. Kostin played 67 regular season and playoff games, scored 12 goals, 15 assists. He was a +11 and 95 penalty minutes. Because, like I said, do you like violence? Because Klim Kostin is coming. Mason, what can we expect out of Klim Shady? You seem excited.
A fight right off the bat. Guarantee it. He's going to fight somebody. He's going to punch somebody. And then he's going to score a game-winning goal. And then he's going to win the hearts of everyone. And I'm going to buy a Klim Kostin jersey. And everything will be sunshine and rambles of the Blues will win 5 Stanley Cups. And it's going to be great.
And he's going to be the heart and soul of the team. That's okay.
And he's going to be the captain, and he is going to carry this team to victory and glory. And then we're going to lose him in an inevitable expansion draft. That's what's going to happen.
In fact, I'll go as far as saying he's going to get a Gordie Howe hat trick in his first game. He's going to get a goal, an assist, and a fight.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Let's do it. Wags, you excited about Klim Shady?
Oh, very excited. I remember a couple of seasons ago in the preseason where we thought he was going to make the team, and it was a game against Dallas, and he did pretty much exactly what you were explaining. He had a fight. I believe he had a goal, and I'm pretty sure he had an assist as well. So he showed that he could play in the NHL, albeit in a preseason game, and then being able to go over into Russia in one of the more wide open kind of leagues. It's not as defensive minded as you think it is, but to be out there and be a physical presence that also scored goals, he did round into a really good third line type of guy. And I think that's exactly where he profiles in at. He could be, I don't want to put that much pressure on it, but he could be the Pat Maroon that we've been needing on this team. Big body, can go to the front of the net, be physical, shield the puck with his body, and score goals. So this might be a huge, huge blessing in disguise for the Blues to have him coming in this late with the championship run. So he's got the championship feel. He knows what it takes to win, and he's got that excitement level. Yeah, maybe he's celebrated a little bit too much, but
maybe
he comes in and goes, look, I felt the excitement of what it took to win a championship in my hometown. Now let me come in and maybe I win 2 championships in the span of 4 months. That could be a pretty good enticing thing for him as well. So I'm excited to see what he's able to bring here. I think he's going to be with this team long term. And I'm just real excited for Kostin. I've been following him for the last 5 or 6 years and have been waiting for him to make his appearance with the Blues.
Yeah, not only are we excited, he's excited.
Yes.
He has flat out said, I'm excited to join. That's what you want. Because he's riding that championship high. He knows what it takes to win. Honestly, very few other teams in this league are going to be able to get a guy just before the playoffs who has won a freaking championship
this year.
Like literally last month. You know, that might be a commodity. Who knows how that works?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you got a guy that's coming off of that. You have a guy that has played under Bob Hartley in Avangard Omsk, a veteran NHL coach who I from what I've read was a really good influence on Kostin, and maybe that was the biggest benefit of Kostin going to Omsk at all, was, you know, to get that veteran, you know, kind of tutelage. And it certainly showed, because he Kostin got better as the season went on. But you're also getting a guy that is total energy. I mean, the guy is he's like a bull in a china shop, you know, out on the ice. I mean, he is he doesn't shy away from contact at all, maybe to a fault. As I said, he has 95 penalty minutes, and you know, as Derek points out, he might take 2 penalties and cost us the game. That, you know, he does kind of have I fear he's got a little bit of a double-edged sword, you know, nature to his game a little bit. But I think I see him at this point being a better version of Kyle Clifford in a lot of ways. I mean, he can move, he could score. I think he's going to score more than Clifford does. He's got that in his locker.
2014 is what I can expect out of him, to be
there we go.
honest.
And that, you know what, that'd be great. And you know, and you made a good point. No other NHL team going into the playoffs right now is adding a player like Kostin at their roster at this point, fresh off winning a Gagarin Cup, energy guy. He bangs. He's a heavy player. He'll probably get you some dirty goals, you know, in front of the net, which is what the Blues need. I mean, I feel like one point that was made by I think it was Derek during our Krug chat here. We're talking about Krug, and he mentioned, isn't his ability to score dependent on how well our forwards screen? And I feel that is one thing the Blues have been kind of missing a little bit, is, you know, saying the Blues forwards haven't generated as much traffic in front of opposing goalies as you would like. Kostin is traffic, you know. I mean, he is going to be causing a lot of havoc in the other team's zone, and I'm looking forward to him. He's not going to be a number 1 top line forward. Okay.
No,
I don't think so. But let's keep in mind, he was the last pick in the first round. I mean, if he ends up being just a middle 6 forward, great. That's fine. That's a pick. That's a dub. And especially considering the fact that, you know, we got the pick and Sundqvist for, you know, Ryan Reeves, who, I mean, we love Ryan Reeves, but I mean, let's face it, I wouldn't trade Sundqvist and Kostin for him right now. I mean, that's kind of silly. So we're playing with house money here with Kostin.
Yeah.
And I think he is going to add a very fun element to this team. I can't wait to see him, and I can't wait for him to be a Blue for a long time. I think he's going to have a real chance, especially once they send Zach Sanford packing. I mean, that's going to be Kostin's spot for the taking, in my opinion. Surely Sanford's not coming back this year. Surely. So, but the story with Kostin this year was kind of interesting, because he was sent to Russia when everything was still kind of in flux with the pandemic. We didn't know if the minor leagues were even going to be a thing this year. So they sent him over to Russia for just the intent was for him to be there just a little bit, just to, you know, get him some game time, get him some action. And then they had visa issues, and, you know, because the pandemic was still being an absolute jerk. So he stayed. And do you feel, maybe, Wags, that was a blessing in disguise for his development?
Huge blessing in disguise, because he got to play a complete season in familiar territory with guys that he wanted to play with, and then they go out and they win a championship. So the fact that he didn't have to travel back and forth from the United States and Russia, have to quarantine multiple different times. And that's another thing we have to remember is there is going to be some sort of quarantine that he has to go through before he can actually play with the Blues. So he may not play this week. It just kind of depends on when he gets in here from Russia, what the quarantine looks like. And then he's already assigned to the taxi squad. So we'll have to see how that kind of plays out. But not having to deal with all of that, knowing that he's going to be playing consistently day in and day out, it does. It gave him a lot of confidence, I think. And I think it is a huge blessing in disguise. And once again, he won a championship. So now he's got that, and he's going to come into this Blues team and go, okay, I showed I could play there. Now I'm going to show I can play here, because a lot of washed up NHLers go over to the KHL. Well, he beat up on all those. Now he's going to come over here and say, okay, I did that. Now I'm going to show you what I can actually do against real NHL players and really prove himself.
And he got to beat up on former Blue Dmitry Jaskin as well. So, who, by the way, I think has rekindled his career in the KHL. And I think
was an MVP last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think this year, he was one of their the league high, like maybe the highest scorer in the league. I mean, he's probably going to be he might come back to the NHL and be like a perennial 30-goal scorer, just to rub it in our faces.
Although that wraparound, I guess.
Yeah, I guess he did. Well, maybe he has more room to work with in the KHL to make those wraparounds happen. I don't think the KHL is nearly as physical as the Blues.
No, not
the
even
NHL
close.
is. No. Not even close. So, by the way, you mentioned Mason. You know the Kyrou, the Hoffman, the Thomas line. Those three together. And I'm thinking about like who would you put Kostin with on this team? I mean, ideally. Where does Kostin play?
I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but a great way to preface this. But I'd put him with O'Reilly and Perron. If I'm perfectly honest, that's what I would
like
do.
That. I like that. I like that a lot. I
would, and a lot of people see. I brought that up with a few people in a group chat that I'm in, and they're like, no, because they play three separate styles, and I'm like,
do
they?
Like that? That's the point.
Yeah, that's how great lines are constructed.
Right. Because I mean, you want a guy who can go up the middle and obviously hit and make some room and make plays when needed. So I think O'Reilly's going to bring that back checking aspect. I'm not expecting that out of Klim Kostin. He can do it, but I'm not expecting that out of him.
Right.
You got the guy who will go into the corners and make plays. That would be Kostin, and then you got the perennial sniper. That is David Perron.
Yeah. I think they play well. I think that's a good combo. I think they would complement each other very well. As you said, Kostin's going to be a hell of a forechecker. I think staying in the zone, causing havoc in the corners. Maybe screening the goalie a little bit. I don't know if that's his game so much, but I mean, I think he's capable of it. Definitely, He's got the size for it. He's got the moxie for it. I only worry about whether if a defender's on his back and like cross-checking him in the back a few times, if Kostin's going to pull I don't know actually. I know he's like 200. Let's see, your Klim Kostin. How big are you?
Oh, I'd be careful typing that in.
He's 6'3". He's 6'3".
Okay. Yeah, 6'3", probably 220, something around there.
Hockey database lists him as 6'3", 212.
212. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 212. So he's got some beef on him, and that's he's not like he's from what I've heard of him, he's like one of those like really low body fat percentage type of guys. So he's just a strong guy.
Yeah.
I just worry about if he's gonna get cross checked in the back and turn around and Hanson brother someone in the face, and start a practice. Yeah,
just start a whole Final Destination sequence right in front of the net.
Yeah, but that's part of the fun with Kostin, though. Yeah. I mean, he is a throwback. He is and trust me, Blues fans will. He's got the quality of game, that I think Blues fans will be really endeared to him once he gets going in the NHL. It has taken a little while to get him adjusted to the North American game, and of course, here we are asking him to do that in a week after playing in the KHL. But I think he'll be fine. He'll be fine. It's just he's not going to be a superstar, but he's going to be fine, I think.
And the big thing you have to remember, too, is we talk about putting him on the O'Reilly-Perron line. People are like, oh, well, isn't that our top line? The Blues don't have a 1, 2, 3, 4 line. They have 4 lines. So
Yes.
the whole thing of, oh, you can't put them on the top line does not apply to the Blues because no line is truly the top line. They spread out their offense. They spread out their capabilities throughout those 4 lines. So putting him on that line doesn't necessarily make him a top 6 forward. It just puts him on a line with guys that are in that grouping. So if anybody's worried and they're hearing us talk, oh, he's a Kyle Clifford or he's a Pat Maroon, and then we're putting him on the top line, that's not what it's all about. They're just putting him with the line that makes the most sense. And I 100% agree. I think that's the perfect spot for him.
And I think we'll need to actually see him in action for us to like really truly determine like where does he work, and because we haven't had a chance to see him a lot. I'm of a couple minds of him. I like the idea of Perron and O'Reilly as a complement to those two styles. I mean, he's a true power forward. I also kind of like the idea of pairing him on a line with Tarasenko, whoever he's matched up with, just as protection, maybe a little bit.
Tarasenko, Barbashev, Kostin, the Russian line.
There we go. The
pretty good one in Detroit.
Yes, the White Russian line. I love it. I absolutely love it. And then of course, there's always the possibility of maybe just throw them with Clifford and Barbashev and just have them be a wrecking crew. As a third line. I mean, I think it's quite possible we see Kostin maybe in all 3 of those situations. Because in addition to us figuring out what game he plays, Ruby's got to figure out where he fits in too. So I think we'll see him in a variety of situations. I think. By the way, one final thing with Kostin, there was a report from the media outlet Champion AT. Of course, state-run media, of course, Russia. You got to trust it at all times. That suggested that Kostin actually wanted to stay in Russia. I call bullshit on that, don't you guys?
I don't know. That Russian media is pretty non-biased, and they're pretty good.
Oh yeah, down the middle, fair and accurate.
Fair and accurate. They're very straight. Those straight arrow bunch of people. Those Russian medias are.
They got 5 out of 5 stars by Vladimir Putin. I mean,
absolutely.
That's
and see, any media that is literally endorsed by the government, it's got to be good.
It's got to be
right.
Good.
Got to be.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen any sort of report from from Kostin that suggested that he thought the KHL was his future. I think he was kind of like Tarasenko in that he wants to prove himself in the NHL. So fair to say, Russian media, you still can't trust it. You still can't trust it. Alrighty, guys. Any final words? Any final thoughts, Mason?
I'm still nervous. I said I am in on the playoffs, but now that I'm, back in the spirit of, okay, we can actually do the thing. What if they don't? That Blues anxiety is right in the back of the head. I can't help but shaking it. I think, I think we're going to finish the season strong. We're going to go in the playoffs and we're going to look okay.
But unlike Mr. 6x6, you actually do look nervous. So
I am pretty nervous. I'm pretty nervous.
By the way, Derek points out Kostin has said that he did not like how he was treated in the KHL prior to joining the Blues. So I would take that over Russian media. Waggers, any final thoughts?
No, I'm just kind of cautiously optimistic. I'm really ready for the season to kind of wrap up, see what the Blues finish up, how they finish up playing, how they look, see who that first round opponent is, and really just get ready for it because I think they could shock a lot of people. Maybe not picked to go very far, but I wouldn't be shocked if this team goes on a run and gets people really excited for Blues hockey.
I'm feeling more optimistic myself about that. I think it is possible, but at the same time, it's Blues hockey, and I'm also bracing myself for the inevitable disappointment that usually comes, except for when they win the Stanley Cup. So
that's what Center Ice Brewery's for.
Exactly. Thank you to Center Ice Brewery for soothing helping with my anxiety. This very episode, as a matter of fact, with some Old Arena Lager. Thank you very much for that.
There we go.
Thank you, DraftKings, as well. Thank you, Libby, for hooking me up with the nice stitching on my jersey and 4 others I had done last week. Thank you, Stimulus. Thank you, Biden Stimulus. And that's going to do it for this episode of Bluenotes. I want to thank you for listening and watching, because without you, there is no me, there is no Wags, there is no Mason, and there is no Hockey Podcast Network. I'm Tom Franklin, reminding you to not be a chump, and Wags,
always play to the whistle.
attaboy. Good job. I'm so glad we replaced you.
Who's
you
a
know,
good
after
boy?
that,
Who's a
after
good
that
boy,
other guy.
Wags?
Good boy. Good boy.
There we go. There we go.
A reminder that you can follow Blue Notes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bluenotes Pod. I'm the voice of the blues, Tom Calhoun. Jeremy Boyer, play us out.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk covering every team in the NHL. New episodes every Monday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.